Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Marketing Gem on today, Wednesday, the 17th of February. Unfortunately, Diane has been laid down, so once again, it falls to me to host the show. Very lucky today to be joined by two great professionals, Jonathan Darby.
Thank you.
And Laurie Bernard. Jonathan, do you want to just tell us a little bit about your background?
Background in major media and advertising operations, UK and throughout the world. So the last couple of positions were things like a global strategy director for a subsidiary of Omnicom. Prior to that, a strategy director for a large subsidiary of WPP, and by and large operating in the blue chip sort of area of businesses. So highly memorable. If you bought yourself a Mercedes or a Mitsubishi or a Hyundai, I might have had something to do with your influencing your choice. Anyway, that's the sort of thing I get up to.
And Laurie, do you want to just say a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Well, I grew up in a family business, and I knew I wasn't cut out to be a hairdresser like my parents. So I went off to college, got a business studies degree. I spent 5 years in top-end electrical retail management, got a further degree in marketing, became a full member of the Chartered Institute of Marketing, joined Lombard, the finance company in marketing and special projects, a Lloyd subsidiary training people set up their own businesses, a Xerox subsidiary in marketing and planning. And when they closed down some 20 years ago, I set up my own consultancy and training business, targeting mainly SMEs, very much in the IT, professional, retail sectors, where I've got experience. I've been a member of the Institute of Enterprise and Entrepreneurs. I'm on the Barclays Bank panel of marketing experts. So I've helped lots of small businesses grow, and survive, and prosper.
Thanks, Laurie. Just a little bit about myself. I've spent sort of a large number of years working in media production, a lot of time in a large corporate, but for actual effective delivery and good customer experience, spent a lot of time working with companies that people consider SMEs. Always impressed by the entrepreneurship and vibrancy of the people that I've been working with. Today's theme, we were talking about trust, and we talk a lot about trust on this show. The angle we're looking at it today is what happens when you have a crisis, and how that impacts how you manage that crisis, and how that will impact on the perception of trust on your brand. The thing that kicked this off was big story. A lot of places that I saw was people who have their iPhone 6s with their touch sensors. They upgraded to the latest version of the iOS and discovered their lovely phone has become basically a brick. The remedy is to take it to an Apple store and get it replaced, paying out a fairly hefty chunk of change. The cause of this was that the iPhone's integrity for its trust system for doing Visa payments or credit card payments via a fingerprint, that's compromised, and they felt that the best way to deal with that trust situation or that security situation was to render the device inoperable. And in security circles, that's not such a strange thing to do. I know of many companies, for example, where if your laptop is viewed by airport inspectors, you let the company know, they take the laptop off you, give you a new one, and dispose of it, because their view is important commercial data could be compromised by foreign actors, so they just have a straightforward policy. So, a variety of perspectives on the matter. I'll ask Jonathan, how do you tackle this sort of concern?
Well, I think it's not just the likes of Apple, but any business that has to deal with either a one-off complaint or a whole, a large number of people and an issue that gathers traction in the social media, then you have to have the same basic ground rules, and that is that you get it sorted out in the most amicable way as quickly as you can. So from my point of view, you'd sort of establish actually what the real issue is, work out what's the best solution in terms of you ask the customer what their response is going to be. So you sort of say, this is the problem, what would be the ideal solution for you? As long as it's not going to bankrupt the business, get it sorted out and get it so that they are feeling that they've got a good, quick and comfortable resolution. If that means you have to actually, sort of say, right, this product isn't for you, withdraw it, fine, but get it sorted out so that they will behave and will come back to you as a future customer. It takes years to build up a relationship with a customer. It takes minutes to destroy it by just turning around and saying, well, the terms and conditions say we can't do anything. But if you do it, you've got to also maintain that as a standard sort of protocol for dealing with that situation, so that you are consistent with the customer.
And Laurie, in these sort of crises, what sort of advice do you give to your clients?
I think don't turn these crises into a major blip. In fact, if you work the marketing right, you can actually turn it to be a positive. A complaint or a crisis can be a golden nugget if you handle it correctly and to build customer loyalties. We all know that things can go wrong sometimes. The important thing, as Jonathan was saying, is to put it right and ask your clients, your customers, what they expect you to do. And if you're really brilliant at marketing, you actually exceed their expectations. So a very simple example was we bought some cheese from an upmarket local supermarket one day who has very good customer service relations. We got it home. It was mouldy. It was within date. It was mouldy. I took it back to this store, went to customer service desk with the receipt. They apologized profusely. Not only did they replace it, but they gave me 2 lots of cheese. They exceeded my expectations, and that particular supermarket chain always ranks in the top 3 of people with good customer service. But they spend a lot of money on empowerment and training of their staff to actually tell them to actually exceed your customer expectations, go that extra mile, and then they're going to be loyal and faithful to you.
Okay, that's very interesting, Laurie. I mean, my devil's advocate perspective on that matter is, there's a world of difference between a £300 computing device where it goes wrong. It's hardly sustainable to give out 2 of those versus £5 worth of cheese, which when you take into account the fuel and the car parking to get to the place, just about covers it. How do you advise your clients about realistic management of that crisis, that sort of crisis?
Again, I think it depends what it is. Sometimes you might be able to give away something that has a high perceived value to the client, but a low cost to you and your business. So it may be giving them some free software or something like that, a piece of OEM software, or offering to set it up for the customer, doing something that just goes that one step further, and then you're going to have an ambassador as opposed to an assassin for your business.
That's lovely. Every business likes the idea of ambassadors rather than assassins. Jonathan, when you're dealing with large corporates and they've got these sort of crises that have very large potential financial impact on them, what kind of thinking do you guide the clients with?
I think the key is find a consistent and rapid response. So don't let this fester. Don't let this gain traction in the social media and things like that. get a resolution that will satisfy the most people quickly. And sometimes it means literally, putting your hands up and mea culpa. For a really big organisation, it's relatively inexpensive and saying, right, either this product is not for you, and therefore we will either take it away and refund you, or we will take it away, and if there's something else that we manufacture or market that you want and would be useful to you and would do the job better, that can have a positive spin because you've recognised their issue and you've turned it round and you've made it painless for them to get out of a bad decision. The other thing to bear in mind is, sort of sometimes you actually have to take it on the chain and take a loss. By and large, big organisations are well insured against things like that. And the actual cost, what costs you £300 at the retailer end doesn't necessarily cost the manufacturer that much to sort out. So when you sort of look at it and people say this is going to cost the company $1 billion to resolve, quite often it doesn't. But the thing is, don't let it hang about, because it's like something going off in the fridge. It starts to smell, other things grow off the back of it, people start spreading bad rumours. In many ways, although the initial reaction at Volkswagen to the diesel crisis, if you like, was a swift and decisive, and members of the board, etc., made their exits, but they haven't actually then really maintained that much momentum to getting it to a resolution. Now, that may not be their fault, that might be the issues that they have with regulatory bodies around the world to come back and say, actually, the result, from our point of view, the resolution to this problem would be X, and then they could go and meet it. So maybe they've been having to try and progress the issue and get the resolution sorted out, but with knowing that all the time, every time they make a statement or a decision, some regulatory organisation could then drop a bombshell on them. But it's speed of action and trying to make sure the majority of people get a resolution that works for them is really important.
Hi, Jonathan. Yeah, you mentioned in your introduction you had worked with BMW, Mercedes, Kia, and notably you haven't worked with the Volkswagen Audi group. So, my question there was, do you have any specific advice? Because obviously you have no relationship with those guys. I'm hoping that's the case. Clearly, they've got regulatory issues. They've got to have regulatory negotiations with statutory authorities in places like America and no doubt India and China, where they smell a degree of blood. Other than trying to get through those regulatory negotiations, any other actions that they can do to damp down the crisis that you would advise them?
They have to open a dialogue with the consumer. And however they choose to manage that, they can do it via social media, or they can do it in more traditional fashion. They'd probably be putting up a statutory notice in a national newspaper because they have an obligation to do that, which was the way that these things were done like 20 years ago. And you'd have these tombstone announcements in things like the London Gazette and things like that. And it was nice money for the London Gazette, but frankly, no one ever read them. And I can remember years ago, I had a client who had an issue with batteries that went pop inside your compact cameras, and they had to basically say, we're going to uplift all these batteries and replace them with new ones, but in the meantime, make sure you don't have one with you when you fly next time. So those things, you have to get the news out as quickly as possible. There's no guarantee. You're not necessarily going to have the email address of everyone who's bought your product nowadays, but you're going to have a lot of them. And you can start spreading the word through that. You may well still have to do something in the press or in a more traditional media saying, if you have one of these, if you have this make a toaster, return it. or go back to your retailer. Um, that can often be done via the records that you hold on warranty cards. But again, lots and lots of people don't fill in warranty cards because it's, the warranty isn't with the manufacturer. The retailer has the obligation to make good, etc. So there's no guaranteed way of doing it. You have to make as many people know as possible, as quickly as possible. But the objective is open the dialogue. Use things like PR. Get onto the BBC and make an announcement in a news program and things like that. But again, it depends on the scale of the problem. But the key issue is address these things up front and try and get a resolution, even if it means you have one resolution with the statutory body, but you also have a terms of reference and a policy for each country that you trade in. The worst thing you can do really is just turn around to a nation's buying public and say, well, as far as we're concerned, we haven't done anything wrong, so we're not going to do anything. That's the way that you used to handle these issues, but I don't really think it's the way that we should deal with it in the 21st century.
Laurie, do you have any perspective on how you would advise the likes of Volkswagen and Audi Group to deal with their reputational challenge that Jonathan hasn't already touched on?
Well, I think they have taken it on the chin. I think some members of staff who were primarily possibly responsible have been made scapegoats and have gone. But I totally agree with Jonathan. You deal with it readily and up front. You hold your hands up and say, look, I'm sorry. We've made a mistake. Our management isn't strong enough. We're putting in procedures to ensure this doesn't happen again. Maybe you get in a firm of management consultants to go through the company and spot the weaknesses within the company and put them right. And you say, this is what we're going to do, and you go ahead and do it. But you need to build that confidence. Quite frankly, with the Volkswagen scandal on emissions, probably doesn't overtly worry the majority of car owners. They want a reliable car that takes them from A to Z safely and reliably. Yes, we would all like to think that we're environmentally friendly, but the actual problem to me as a car owner is probably not that major. What I am upset about is being misled by the manufacturer or the supplier, just like the sort of horse meat scandal with the supermarket chains and the frozen food ready meals. What I don't want, if it said that it was horse meat on the packet, it's my choice whether I eat the horse meat or not. And I think I probably have in France when I've been on holiday, and it's quite acceptable there. But don't lie to me, and I think that's also what's tainted Tony Blair's reputation on the Iraq issue of the weapons of mass destruction. People don't want to be taken for a ride. They don't want people to make them feel foolish. If something goes wrong, as Jonathan says, put your hands up, admit it, and then do something to put it right. Excuse me. And again, always exceed customer expectations.
Yeah, that seems like good advice. Just take a little break to say that you're watching the Marketing Gem. You're watching the Marketing Gem, a weekly show brought to you by Link for Growth. It's a show where SMEs, small medium enterprises, where a panel of experts discuss branding and marketing issues and how they affect SMEs. If you want to get in touch with us, you can via Twitter at the Marketing Gem. I can see Laurie still sort of coughing there.
Seems to clear.
Do you want to go with one tip of the week or something that you want to just share with the wider audience on wider issues?
I think maybe Twitter are losing some of their gloss, and I was reading an article in the Harvard Business Review today, which you can get online, by the way, free of charge, well worth it, that was saying that, Twitter has become a tool where people are being aggressive and nasty to people. I'm part of a communications advisory team for a charity, and we're very careful how we use social media, because it can come back and bite you in the rear end if you're not careful, and it needs constant monitoring. And also, it probably doesn't have a very long life. We used to say a newspaper ends up as chip wrapping and has a life of possibly a day. A tweet, if it doesn't get picked up and retweeted, probably has a very short lifespan. So consider carefully how you're going to put your marketing resources in place and what's going to get you the best return on investment, both in terms of money and in terms of your resource, your time to do it. Because if you are an SME, you're probably doing a lot of different aspects of your business, including the marketing. And think, you know, for every hour you invest in your marketing, what really is going to last long and give you a good return. So I think that's my single tip for the day.
That's fantastic sage advice, Laurie. You know, using your marketing time and resources very wisely, not just being a me too marketer. Very good, perceptive advice. Jonathan, your tip?
I think one of the things, building on what Laurie was saying, is if you are going to use Twitter, try and think of it as a yes and building in a positive environment. It's very dangerous in marketing, although people like to sort of turn around and say, "Oh, we're the best." You know, used car dealers, everyone has their stories about them. But actually, if you're a big used car dealer, don't tell your customers that every other used car dealer is a crook, because actually that reflects badly on you. So try and be positive, not only of your business, but of the category of business that you're in. And if you are like that, by and large, you will probably avoid the negative aspects of Twitter, because you're not going around perpetrating negative stories. So try and be positive. So I'd say that was, you know, sort of one thing. In terms of, you know, sort of, a tip regarding what we've been talking about today is get together with the outward-facing members of your company team, be it just yourself or you and your salespeople or your whoever's customer-facing, which is quite a lot of people in most organisations, and make sure that you have a defined process for dealing with an issue and as it comes in, so that it can be dealt with as quickly as possible. The example that I gave earlier about in the shop, empowering the members of staff at a ground floor level to be able to make a decision and to replace with twice the value of items that caused the issue in the first place. The issue with, say, Apple and saying, well, it's a £600 phone, we're not going to give away another £600 phone, but what we can do is meet this expectation and give you a £25 voucher for use on the Apple Store or something like that. So there is a little, you know, we resolve your problem and we give you a gift to lift your spirits, but it isn't to the full value of the item. So that I would say was my tip that's related to this week. And I suppose the final thing, apart from, yes, get yourself an online subscription to the whole business review because it's very good, is remember that every action that you take in your business has some kind of marketing repercussion. And therefore, before you make a policy decision that you're going to do, boom, make sure that you understand its likely implications and that you bounce it off the people who are going to have to deliver that experience to your customer, and, you know, agree how you will deliver necessarily bad news occasionally.
Okay, well, thanks guys very much. I've certainly learned some useful stuff. You know, very important to realize that it takes you years to create a reputation, and a thoughtless employee can destroy that reputation in minutes. Also learned a lot about, you know, when you're putting things right, you know, do exceed expectation, and focus on perceived value, as Laurie was saying. Laurie and Jonathan were saying, you don't necessarily have to give a second iPhone, but you can give things that are of high perceived value to help make the customer feel better. And the positive message from all this is that if you do this stuff well, trust in your trust in your brand will increase. So really, I'd just like to say thank you very much to Laurie and Jonathan. Jonathan, do you want to say goodbye?
Yeah, but please remember you can get hold of us at the Marketing Gem if you want to give us some feedback, or if there is a topic that you would like us to think about and maybe comment on in future programs.
Okay. And Laurie?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on board today. Been an honour as ever, and keep up the good work, and we'll all be better businesses. Thank you.
Thank you much, everyone, and hopefully we'll have Diane back next week doing the good job that she does. So thanks everyone for watching, and if you want to reach out to us, as the guys have said, at the Marketing Gem. Thank you.